Welcome to Soul Society, the shift, the tribe, the movement. May you live your truth. Live from Los Angeles, welcome to the Soul Society podcast with Dr. Erin. We come together each day to know the truth, live on spiritual principle, and align with universal law. We also come together as a community in Soul Society, which we are committed to being the number one spiritual leaders community in the world. We're really committed to enlightenment, empowerment, and entrepreneurship. We believe that when someone awakens, they have a gift and message to bring to the world. And our mission is to awaken 1 billion people. And how we are doing that is by developing spiritual leaders. So this is a series we're in right now. This is 2 of 12 of a series on Live Your Truth. This is kind of a buzz word or statement out there, live your truth. And so we have to ask, what does it mean? What the hell does this mean to live your truth, right? And from a metaphysical standpoint, there is ultimate truth and relative truth. The ultimate truth is things like universal law. There's things like you're an immortal spiritual being. Energy cannot be destroyed. But there's also a relative truth, and you have a relative truth. What is true for you is true for you, meaning what works for you only works for you. How you thrive in relationship, how you thrive in what food you put in your body, what you like, what passions you have, things like that. Those are unique to you. And so living your truth is really knowing thyself and being that. And so this entire program, this 12 series, is really about walking you through the process that we walk our ambassadors through a certification program and learning how to discover your truth and really live that truth. And in doing so, the ambassadors get trained and are able to birth other people's truth and live their truth. So there's a process called MEDIATIONS. It was a Greek oracle process a very long time ago. And it is based off of the word midwifery. And although instead of birthing a baby, you birth someone's truth. So a lot of this work is based in those processes. What happened was when I was 22, and I actually gave birth to my stillborn son, and I decided, I was, the day after I gave birth to his body, in the mortician's house, staring down on his body. He was gone, but his body was still here. I decided and committed at a soul level to really discover truth and figure out what the hell we were doing here and what's the meaning of life and who am I if I'm not this body, and so on and so forth. So I began an intense journey that now has been 25 years. And what happened is I began to meditate. I began to go to seminars and read books and began to find subconscious work and got my 9 rights in shamanism and became a spiritual practitioner and became a science of mind minister and became a doctor of divinity. And along the process, there was a few processes that really stuck with me. One was, of course, meditation, imperative for awakening, imperative for knowing thyself, imperative for having a grounded life in truth and divine connection. There were some other things that really stuck on my track. One, of course, was understanding universal law and the metaphysics of how energy works and how we're creating, how we're manifesting, right? And the other thing that really profoundly affected my awakening was the subconscious work, the Greek oracle processes, the Maieutic processes. And when I began to do my subconscious work, what happened was I began to think, what am I really doing here? When we get into the subconscious work, of course, we're dealing with trauma. That was very important. And then I began to realize that what does it mean to really know thyself and birth thy truth? And I began to get a system into place. It was not a system before. And what happened is 22 years after I began my journey, I came up with a kind of a step-by-step process of this, which I call the truth triangle. And what it really is, it's really birthing your truth. It's birthing your true power, your divine spiritual power. It is birthing your passion, understanding what your relative truth is. And number 3, it's really birthing your purpose and calling. And lastly, in the middle of the triangle is really your daily spiritual practice, who you are to embody your truth, to live your truth. So in this particular podcast, I want to walk you through what the truth triangle is and give you an overview for you to begin to ask yourself the inquiry of some of these questions that we're going to get into in the rest of this 12 series of podcasts. Okay, so let's do this thing. So the ultimate intention of the truth triangle and reprogramming the subconscious mind is to birth your truth, which means to birth your true identity, like we said, the power, your relative truth, which is really to birth your passion, and to birth your purpose and calling. And so, along the process of discovering these different modalities and subconscious processes, I came up with, again, the truth triangle. And the goal of reprogramming the subconscious mind is to awaken and birth your truth and then live your truth, okay? So the first part of the triangle is birthing your power, your true divine power, who you really are. So this is really about birthing your true identity and the truth of who you are, your power. You're a powerful spiritual being. So it's restoring the true nature by releasing your limiting beliefs within your subconscious mind from traumatic incidences and remembering who you are. Really and truly, that's really what it's about. Releasing self-judgment and shame and unleashing the freedom and choice and shifting to your true identity instead of your inherited identity. Releasing the cultural roles and limited circumstances and taking back your power. Truly. So how do we do this? So in the first part of the triangle, the power side of the triangle, we deal with trauma. We deal with a lot of trauma and identity shifting and really restoring your true self-empowerment. So trauma is the core work of this side of the triangle. And so beginning to ask yourself, and if you're doing this 12 series with me, or even just this one, I would begin to ask yourself, what were the major trauma events on your track? And, I've worked in conferences and seminars and workshops and worked with, really touching hundreds of thousands of lives. And there's some commonalities in trauma. And we're not talking about trauma, physical trauma. We're talking about emotional trauma. Okay. So first of all, we have to kind of identify what is a trauma, right? So trauma is really a state where you are in a high state of emotions, negative emotions. And in that state, you basically command something into your subconscious. It's actually a statement that is a limited statement, like, I am not enough, or I'll never love again, or I effed up again, or it doesn't matter anyway, or I don't care. Whatever it is a command that plays out over and over in one's life. And what I've come to kind of understand from working with so many people is that there's usually 3 major traumas in childhood that really set a precedent. But we have to know that this comes from our past life. It comes from our outpicturing of our heritage. So generally, you will find that there's not a lot of movement. There's a lot of typically in relationship, for example, a lot of families will have a lot of divorce from grandparents to parents to children. Or you'll have a family that has, long marriages, and it's unlikely that will shift in its kind of patterning of the DNA. So the point of this is to begin to ask yourself, what traumatic incidences do you have? And beginning to kind of take a look at what have you decided out of life? What are your belief systems? And discovering and restoring the truth. Obviously, you need to do this primarily in session work with people. You can do EMDR, you can do cognitive therapy, you can work with a spiritual coach that's trained in Soulciety, things like this, someone who understands how to actually do trauma work. Trauma work is, I think, one of the most important things you'll ever do on your track beyond doing meditation, beyond traditional prayer and things like that. I believe that trauma work is probably one of the most important things you can do to awaken and restore your power. Okay, so back to the truth triangle. We've got on one side of it power. So how do you restore power, right? We want to restore power by really spotting those commands, spotting those limiting beliefs. And what's fascinating, I remember when I was doing my trauma work, the most amazing thing would happen. Because when I would go back into a trauma and re-experience a trauma, and I would neutralize the emotions around that trauma, and I would spot the commands and decisions and limiting beliefs that I commanded into my subconscious, it was simply in spotting the limiting belief and the command that I put in there that it almost automatically restored my power, because I realized if I am able to powerfully command something that has been playing out in my life for that long, I sure as hell can command something that's positive and use that same energy to create good. Because this is the deal. If you follow my work or you understand universal law, you will understand that there's only one source of everything. And the one source can either create abundance and expansion and innovation and harmony and love and heaven on earth, or it can be inverted, and the same use of energy can create chaos, discord, dysfunction, limiting beliefs, and hell on earth, okay? So in doing my trauma work, it was like instantaneous. Like, oh my gosh, if I can create that limiting belief and have it project out into every circumstance of my life, I know that's how powerful I am. If I invert it, imagine what I'm able to do. Okay? So the first part of the triangle is birthing your power. This is also identity shifting. This is the deal. Okay? All spiritual work, all self-development, from a metaphysical standpoint in universal law, is shifting back to the true identity, the I am. That's why in many religions they say I am, that is the greatest identity of who you are, which is the I am factor, which is one with the entire universe, which is divine, which is spirit. Your true identity is spirit. You are the factor that has created the entire universe. And so restoring power is imperative in birthing your truth, because you have to know who you are first, right? And then really looking at the places where you handed power outside of yourself. Where did you hand your power outside of yourself for joy? Did you hand yourself power outside of yourself for money? Did you make money more powerful than you? Did you hand your power over to the circumstances of your life, or even the health of your life, right? These are all places that we've got to restore and take back, cutting those cords of where you consciously gave your power outside of yourself, because the truth and restoring your power is all about claiming that you are really the creator. You're the creator of all of it. And anything that you even experience in this life is really the karmic debt of the cultural, of everything that's been created culturally, which you are that. You are the individual consciousness, the collective consciousness, and the cosmic consciousness. Okay, so number one part of the triangle is restoring your divine power. You are an almighty spiritual being, period. That is the truth, the I am. Okay, so let's get into the second part of the triangle. The second part of the triangle is birthing your passion. Birthing your unique truth in your deepest passions, releasing upsets, failed expectations, guilt, and fears, claiming your freedom by accepting yourself, other people, and life as it is. The only source of suffering really is the gap between wishing people, places, and things were different than they are. So we really have to shift you back to the truth of who you are, restoring your passion by getting clarity on your values, your core values, and your commitments, living a life you love by focusing on what matters to you. Okay, so how do we do this exactly, right? So how do we birth your passion, which is really birthing your relative truth? Again, there is ultimate truth and there's relative truth, and you have a very specific relative truth, your unique truth. And so how do we do this? We first have to really take a look at what are your core values, and where are you not living in accordance and in alignment with your core values. We have to really take 100% responsibility, no longer looking for anyone out there or anything or any circumstance to ever shift. Until we shift, nothing can shift out there, because everything is the outpicturing of the mind, of your mind. It's called the mental equivalent. So whatever's going on in your relationships, in money, in health, is always going on in mind. And your mind is not just your mind is the collective and the cosmic, remember? So birthing your passion. We have to get clear of what really matters to you and your core values. We have to see where you are handing your power over and having expectations of other people to fulfill upon what matters to you. You have to take back your power and basically put boundaries on people, places, and circumstances so that you can live in peace and with your power and in passion. Getting clear of where you have basically experienced, feeling like you failed at things, feeling like you have problems, feeling like there's confusion, feeling like there's quandaries. We get clear and we restore that so that you know what really matters. Where do you want to put your energy in this life? And living on that passion that you have. What do you like in the realm of relationships? What do you need in the realm of when you sleep and the lifestyle that you want and all that stuff. This is important to know thyself. Have you ever just sat down and really thought about these things? All relationships are the opportunity to discover what you like and what you don't like. So have at it. Go get out there and figure out what your passions are. If you don't know what your passions are, go discover. That's what college is about. That's what the world travels about. Go out and take as many courses, experience as many things as possible. Go date as many people as you want to discover what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so we birth your passion. The third part of the truth triangle is birthing your purpose and calling. And we do this by turning your suffering into your triumph and creating the legacy you want to leave in this lifetime. You have a unique gift and a message to bring to the world. And we truly believe that when somebody awakens, they have a gift and message to bring to the world. So how do we do this exactly? We want to really begin to look at the suffering and the triumph. Sorry, my phone's ringing. The triumphs that you've had over the triumphs that you've had in your life. And so if you haven't done your trauma work, you have to first do your trauma work before you get to your birthing your purpose and calling, okay? So what triumphs have you had in this lifetime, and plus your skill set, plus your passion, okay? So the actual formula for birthing your purpose and calling is your triumphs, plus your passion, plus your skill set. So how do we discover this? Sometimes we need to go back into trauma on this side of the triangle. We do past life regressions, and we need to get clear of what trauma still needs to get cleared up on your track. So we sometimes have to go back over to the power part of the triangle. Okay. So birthing your purpose and calling is I think one of the most beautiful things to do as someone who is a spiritual leader and a spiritual coach and doing subconscious reprogramming. It is an honor to do past life regressions. And you don't need to believe in past lives, but the truth is that you have all memory of all lifetimes in your DNA. So all trauma sits in you right now. We know there is no such thing as time or space in the spiritual realm, right? So it's really about getting clear on that you are all that. You are your ancestors. You are your parents. You're living and breathing as them because it's their cells, it's their DNA. You're just the exact perfection, all that, your mom and your dad all in one, right? So you're the fractal that's unique to you, that's never, ever, there's not only one you in this entire universe. So the truth triangle is really birthing your true power, your true passion, and your purpose. And then we get into creating your life purpose statement. And that's really about knowing what you really want in life, creating a North Star for your life. And so I invite you to ask yourself, what traumas do you really feel that you've had in your past lives? If you really get into meditation or you really get in there, obviously, again, this is done with a practitioner. This is done in session work. But you can begin to just ask yourself, you can look at your grandparents. You know what they were upset about, right? You can look at your parents. You can see where they have had trauma or where they feel lonely and they feel like they're not enough or whatever it is. You can just look at it and know. This is not so difficult. And birthing your purpose is imperative because you get to complete all the trauma for your entire lineage. You can't have 3 sessions and be done, right? You got to do your trauma work. And it takes some work to do this. You're healing your entire lineage. And then you're leaving your legacy. And this is the most beautiful thing. When you get clear of what really matters to you and what change and what impact you want to have in the world, then you get to create your legacy. And when you create a legacy and you live from passion, you live from love, you will never, ever work another day in your life. Because this is a dharma. This is an honor. And so in this, again, the truth triangle is about birthing your power, your passion, your purpose. Those are the 3 sides of the triangle. And in the center of it is really living your truth. You first have birthed your truth. Now you get to live your truth. So in the middle of the triangle is your daily spiritual practice. And in your daily spiritual practice, number 1, of course, you get grounded in source every day through meditation, through prayer, for all these things. And you also ask yourself, what principles and practices do I want to embody to be the person that I've always wanted to be? Who do I need to be in the realm of my mindset, my skill set to actually live out that purpose and calling and legacy? And every day you take inventory. Every day you practice mindfulness and emotional intelligence to really keep being the healed person that you are. Just because you do your trauma work does not mean that you don't have patterns that you've set in place. You may not get triggered anymore. You may not get reactive, but you have patterns and habits. So your daily spiritual practice is really about creating new habits and choosing to have the character that you really want, choosing to be the person and the principles that you want to live by every single day. And so this is a beautiful process, this meitic process of birthing your truth and living your truth. And I believe this is the core work for all of us. Of course, meditation is imperative. Of course, prayer is imperative. But this is really the core work. And I'm just so incredibly honored to birth this to the world, this work that has taken me 25 years to develop. No joke, 25 years. It's been a quarter of my life, and the first 22 years of my life was really all a relative truth of not living my truth and being in suffering and not wanting to live inside and being very confused and all the above. So this work has given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, and it is the greatest honor of my life to birth this to the world through what's being created into a book, through this podcast, through Soulciety, through all the above. And so I just invite you, if you're somebody that truly wants to dive into this work and do your subconscious work, please reach out to me. You can DM me on social media. You can email me at Erin@ErinFallHaskell. You can, do whatever. We have trained practitioners to do trauma work. And if you do have a calling to be a spiritual leader, please apply to Soulciety. But we only accept people who are 1,000% committed to really, really making an impact in the world. We don't do shenanigans, and we don't do half-ass, okay? I create and develop badass spiritual leaders, and that is my must for my life, okay? So thank you for tuning in. This is number 2 of 12 of this series of the podcast of Live Your Truth. So you can binge the other ones, and please refer a friend if this has impacted your life. Please send it to somebody that you feel like would really benefit from this. Also, if you'd give me a review, 5-star review on the podcast here on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are. I'm on all podcast platforms, okay? So have a wonderful day, and may you live your truth. Thanks again for tuning in to Dr. Erin and Soulciety podcast. I'd like to invite you to write a review on iTunes. Also, I have a free gift for you, a money meditation and worksheet, which you can find at soulciety.com. That's www.soulciete.com. Or 30 guided meditations at drerin.tv. That's www.drerin.tv. We also hold monthly Soulciety events that are all about transformation and building extraordinary community. You can also watch me live daily on goodmorninglalaland.com or Instagram at drerin.tv. Grab your free manifestation masterclass with the purchase of my international best-selling book, Awakening, a 40-day guide to unleashing your spiritual powers, life purpose, and manifesting your dreams at erinfallhaskell.com/awakening book.